I just finished watching season 3, the final season of Squid Game, and man, do I have some things I want to pick a bone at with this season. I thought it was not so good. I thought it was disappointing. I don't think it had any good closure. And I'm not a complete hater. I'm not one of those people who just say, oh, this is terrible, this is terrible. Nothing was good about it. Those people, a bit too entitled. Let's just be frank, this concept, this just idea about the show was so unique and so great, especially season 1, that it gained a worldwide fandom when it was only meant for Korea. And it was so successful, it became Netflix's flagship show. And there were still good moments in season 2 and 3. So I'm not just a complete spoiled, entitled hater, or one of those armchair people who just say that. So I will quickly tip my hat to a few good parts, and then I'll sink my teeth into what I found disappointing. I love the fun childhood games chosen for this one. I thought the jump rope one and the hide and seek one were super clever, super fun choices. Maybe, hopefully, Mr. Beast will do like a recreation of that. What else? I really thought the character development for some of the characters in season 3 and the emotional appeal and making you hate the shaman girl, or making you really feel emotions and root for the trans girl who ended up getting backstabbed, and seeing how this person was still very caring, or seeing the grandma and her son, and then seeing them killed off and her killing herself. Very, very sad moments. But yeah, by the way, of course, there's going to be spoilers in this, but so spoiler warning. So there were some really good moments where I felt like the character story and background and everything about them and their personality, they really shined through. It was authentic and you really cared for her, including the girl who dressed up as a bunny in the Seoul amusement park. That was a sad, but related was not the right word. It was a story that seemed realistic to me. Okay, now let's sink our teeth into what I didn't like about it. There was no closure. The first couple seasons was built up as if there was going to be some big closure moment and big, like, leading plot points. Like, yeah, this showrunner knows what he's doing. Like, this detective's really gonna like find something and make it work. Or at least we're believed to think that, given all our previous experience with TV shows and movies. And then this detective ends up doing nothing. Him and his whole squad, and I complained about this when season 2 came out too. Him and his whole squad spend both seasons being completely useless, surfing the high seas, looking for an island, and having zero impact on the plot. You could have taken them completely out and they would have zero impact. I don't know why they were congratulating themselves and they acting like they did accomplish something in the final episode at the very end. They like the epilogue. I don't think they did anything really. And sure, I think we find out in the last episode of season 2 that okay, the captain of a ship was in on it, which means he was making it very hard for them to get anywhere, and that's why. But I don't know. He was like the secondary protagonist. We're assuming it's going to lead somewhere. I mean, just follow the plot of a typical soap opera or K-drama, like, or any drama. Like, that's a complete through line that you just made useless. Like, the detective did nothing. He gets to there at the end. His whole crew's already killed off. He gets there still trying to accomplish something. What does he do? Nothing. He just shouts, why to his brother, and then his brother says nothing and escapes. Okay, you did nothing. And then you leave the island, and the island self-destructs, so all the evidence is now gone. It's almost like a double whammy, because even if the island didn't self-destruct, that girl burned all the evidence in the hard copy room, which I guess she was trying to save these people, but it's kind of counterintuitive, because now when the Coast Guard finds it, like, or anyone finds it, there's no evidence. The whole thing's so stupid. But the real issue is just like, when I read that the show creator, his main point for this last season, and this is the last season, which is also really upsetting because I think this had the potential to go on for a few more seasons and for things to turn around. That's literally how they set up the ending to season 3, as if this is going to continue with another cliffhanger, where now they seem to be starting the games in the U.S. But no, the showrunner is saying this is the final season, but literally he's saying how he's going to have all this closure. And in my opinion, there's no closure because the villains just get away with everything. It seems like they all escape safe and sound. The billionaires who are funding these games, the spectators, they learn nothing. There's no sign of empathy or understanding about what Gi-hun did. And they're just going to continue to pay for this and fund the show. And they all escaped the island. They destroyed it, cleared all the evidence, and the games continue for the next year. So the villains basically just got away with everything. And I read online that the show creators' main intention was to leave this message at the end of this season, basically showcasing that if you are self-interested and too selfish and you don't work together, then there's no future for any of us. And I mean, it's a good message. It could be a message for a lot of things, nuclear warfare, a lot of things that can really help us in the world. But when executed improperly, the message gets misinterpreted, which can easily happen, especially when you look at the crazy, idiotic people in this world. And I think that's kind of what happened here, because I don't think people got that message from this final season. Instead, it just seems like the message is, people are really selfish and they love to do stupid stuff. And you can't count on humanity because every round they're going to continue to vote out of greed to continue the games and continue to, be selfish for themselves. Because that's literally how they depicted this last season. Every round, they got more and more money, more than enough that they were happy with. But their greed made most of them continue to vote, which I think, like I said in my last video, is unrealistic. I think there'd be more humanity, and if not humanity, just like logic in these people. They'd be like, I've seen enough emotional trauma to last me 2 lifetimes, and all the therapy in the world is not going to pay for all of this. Let me get out of here while I still can. Or I've made enough money, or geez, like most people don't make it to every next round. Let's just get out of here. But no, they just idiotically continue to do that. I don't think that's realistic, but if it is, or if you believe it is, or if the show convinces you it is, I feel like the message gets skewed into, people are terrible, selfish pricks. So just, I think, well, to be fair, I think Gi-hun's tried to convey his message. He was the one who really did hold his humanity throughout. And I think that was a part of the show that it was worth keeping in there, because rather than, some fan theories that he would turn evil, because he did have a good heart. But all his compassion throughout every round was not noticed or appreciated or reciprocated by anyone. And I really do feel like that was a lost opportunity to teach a lesson or message. In fact, it could teach the opposite, or it's so disappointing when now all you see is Gi-hun doing all these compassionate things. For example, he let that old guy who was terrible to him, never believed him, mocked him, made everyone around him also mock him. He saved that guy's life numerous times. And then, despite all that, you're going to turn on, this guy's still going to be a prick to you the whole time? Like in the jump rope game, Gi-hun literally saved his life because he could have let the other guy just kick everyone off the bridge and not let anyone through, but he didn't. He showed humanity for the umpteenth time. And it just kind of shows, it kind of depicts that like, oh, everyone's a psychopath and selfish and all this stuff. And on top of that, some plot points were just nonsensical, and the interactions between the people and the way things ended up progressing just screamed, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't actually happen like this. The chances it would happen like this are very low, but we're just gonna do it like this because we want Gihan to have plot armor until the very end where he sacrifices and kills himself. So it's a meaningful moment. And yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how it's just him and the baby at the end. So yeah, let's just make it so that all the people, all the like 8 or 9 people in this Squid Game stone right before all just happen to randomly get killed. It just was just blatantly plot armor for Gihan. It just didn't make any sense. And on top of that, just the interactions just made no sense. Like Gihan's gonna have show humanity in certain moments, and then in others, he's just gonna be fine with like letting uh this guy do these terrible things. Like in that last episode, he was like showing humanity at times. He was like, yeah, let's draw lots. You know, the right move is not to, kill this guy or like make him into a lunchbox and pack a meat to sacrifice later. Um, but then moments later, Gihan literally lets and watches as the other final man with him goes ahead and kills the old guy greedily to make more money, which is hypocritical because that old guy would have done the same thing. But yeah, that it doesn't make sense. Why didn't you stop that? And there's just long moments of pauses in the dialogue throughout the season. It just didn't make any sense. It was like you're gonna have this 20-second dialogue when you only have 2 minutes of a head start to hide in the hide and seek game, and you're gonna let this old guy strategize. No. And then while you're going to hide, you're gonna have these long drawn out conversations with the grandma and this girl and walk slowly. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not enough time to hide. I understand this is a giant maze, kind of like a corn maze, but 2 minutes is like nothing. It's not a lot of time. And I don't know. A lot of these moments are so stupid. Like you're gonna have such a martial arts ability and such quick wit throughout the show, and you're able to defend this girl who just gave birth to a baby, which, by the way, I don't think it's that easy to give birth to a baby without like all the equipment and the medicine, and they just made that super easy. It just didn't make sense. And then you're gonna have all this quick wit and then just randomly get backstabbed because you all of a sudden you got slow. Like he got slow, like he lost like 30 IQ points the moment he saw the exit. And rather than, the immediate thought I had would be like, okay, go immediately back to the grandma and the girl because you're wasting like 30 seconds just staring like a dumb guy and slowly opening this exit door when literally in that 30 seconds someone else could have found those two helpless people and killed them. And then you take all this time and then you don't have your back guarded while you're talking to these people. The whole thing's stupid. But I think the main gripe I have with it is that I felt like there was a lot of build up, as if I knew the showrunner had a plan, a strong plan, where the detective would get somewhere, where Gihan had some master plan that would have much more of an impact. He had this whole crew, and they just constantly poked all the air out of the police force, the police team. At least give him something, give him some evidence, give him something to work off so they can like potentially help out. But no, throughout each of these seasons, these season 2 and 3, they just made the police completely useless, severely doubtful, not open to any advice or feedback or whatnot. And antagonists, if anything, they made it very difficult. And they helped that sinister captain of the ship. And so the detectives and the detective did nothing. They got a lot of screen time searching these islands, useless. The captain of the ship did a good job steering them off course, but it just seemed like the front man had just too much power throughout all these seasons. Like nothing. It just seemed like everything was like in their favor. Gihan, you thought maybe at the start of season 2 he had some master plan that would have some impact, and he kind of did, but it was such a loosely thought out plan, and he sucked so bad. He was so stupid that, like, unlike a lot of, I guess, TV shows I'm used to, where he, like, I think he should have more power, he didn't. So it just kind of like he lost his wind super early on. Like, I would say, like, episode 3, when he gets onto the island and he loses his tooth tracker, he just like gives up. He's like, shoot, like, and then he leads rebellion, so he does try and have that some impact. But by the start of season 2, I mean, by the start of season 3, he's just like a ghost. He's in some type of trance or fugue state, or he's just given up on life. And it's understandable, but, like, at that point, like, what's left? Like, you're left hoping that, like, there's some thread of hope, but there's nothing really even to root for, because Gihan's, like, has completely given up. The detective's still useless, and they still haven't found the island, and he's doubtful that the captain is skeptical, that the captain is betraying them. And why is he so skeptical of that? Like, it just makes it so hard to root for anyone, and it just feels like, oh well, everyone's just fruitless and useless, and they've just given up. So they have, like, no impact, and literally the front man gets to play his games and just win, just straight up win. And, you know, at least make it. I feel like the ending was intended to portray something like Gihan makes this big sacrifice, or at least make some impact to convey to those spectators, those billionaires watching, that, hey, like, we are not horses, we are humans. And he kind of does that, but, like, his speech is so short, and then he jumps, and then, like, the billionaires, they just, like, watch, and then they move on. It's like a 3-second clip, and there's, like, no impact. So, like, he does all this stuff, he has all these winnings at his disposal, and you would think he would have some more power, maybe some twist that he doesn't reveal to the audience. And I was thinking, maybe Gihan had some master plan, and then boom, he has something. But it literally just seems like dude is just, like, fucking failing. And so he attempts to leave this message, but really just to save the baby. Whole thing just seems like a terrible payoff. The baby gets all the winnings, which, like, that baby was so young, won't even remember what happened or the sacrifice that went into it. So all that effort led nowhere. And then no one even freaking witnessed what happened that's still alive. The detective didn't even make it there until the very end. So he didn't even get to see Gihan's sacrifice. So he has no idea what the heck happened. He just knows that the baby, this random baby, won the money, and the front man still has complete control and knows exactly where his brother, the detective, lives and works. So yeah, the whole thing's fruitless. The one possible piece of impact is the front man seemed to have been somewhat moved by the whole thing, and then put it on him to, preserve the baby, which he would have done anyways, but also to break in, collect Gihan's winnings and pass it to his daughter. But, like, not that much. He was still a terrible person who killed all the other people when he won the games. You don't never really understand his full backstory as to whether or not why he's doing it. But, you get the basic idea. He never, like, he won the games, and then, like, for some reason he liked it enough that he became a runner of the games, or, like, his belief systems ended up aligning with the original creator. Whole thing is just, like, frustrating, because, like, no one really learns a lesson. The billionaires financing the games, I don't think they were really impacted enough to really learn anything or take anything away. I don't think Gihan's message made a dent, because literally you see the games continue. This time, now they're recruiting in the US. And so it literally was like the Squid Games won. Like they're continuing year by year to continue this madness, this cruel game, and then frontman's continuing to run it. The winnings were passed down. The detective is still clueless and made zero impact. The Coast Guard, from what we can tell, even though the epilogue seemed to be like they're congratulating themselves, made no impact. They probably found zero evidence because the island blew up and self-destructed. And the only other accomplice who was there to help the detective, he got 6 months in jail. So literally it feels like the bad guys lost. I mean the bad guys won, good guys lost. And the if you wanted to make that closure and that build up and that impact work, then like do it a different way. Like if you want the message to be, hey, if we're just selfish and do all these things for each other and whatnot, then there's no future for any of us. I would have done the whole story differently. Instead, it seems like the attempt was more so to tell the message that, hey, let's make a fun thriller story, and hopefully Gihan might be able to end these cruel, terrible games. And the games really showed how cruel and greedy and psychopathic some of the contestants are, most of the contestants, and self-centered. And that's about it. It just shows how terrible it is. And Gihan's attempt was meager and a bit of a failure to convey that message to the people who were continuing the games, to essentially have some humanity and understand that the contestants are not horses, they are humans. He failed at that. The whole trailer and curiosity we all had was, will Gihan win? Will he end these terrible games? That was the whole thing we were rooting for. And with these big widespread things, I get it. No one's going to be completely happy. No one was happy with the Game of Thrones ending. No one was happy with the Star Wars movies. A lot of things people are never happy with. But I do feel like, while you can't please everyone, I do feel like there are some things that could have been done better to have a happier closure. Now I get it, sometimes the showrunner doesn't always want to go with the standard trope of the good guys prevailing, but you didn't necessarily have to do that, but you didn't have to like let them off so clean and easy. I think there's a lot of really good material here for Mr. Beast to do a recreation, but I feel like the show itself is more compelling because the stakes are much higher. With Mr. Beast, if they lose, they don't really lose their life or get injured or anything like that. So it's just not as compelling. And then when you see the recreation that Mr. Beast did, like, some of the players were really taking it very casually. Like, and then some of them were like trying to make off this heroic sacrifice, like, oh, remember me. And then they would like self-sacrifice themselves. But it doesn't have the same effect in Mr. Beast games, because you do that and then you just walk out of the competition and you're still happy and healthy. But nonetheless, I do feel like if it was a real world, like I said in my previous video, a lot of things would be very different. I think people have a lot more humanity than the show gives them credit for. And unfortunately, the undertone of the show is almost implying that a lot of people just don't have humanity and just terrible people. And there's most people, I think, are have good hearts and are good people. But and that's what I thought the first season was conveying with that last episode with Gihan versus that old guy who created the Squid Games, and they were battling to see if someone would help the homeless person. But in this last 2 seasons, you just see round after round of just terrible behavior by most of these contestants. If you wanted to have that message that the showrunner wanted, which is that if we're just super selfish all the time, and then there's no future for any of us. Uh, I would have made it even more so where the billionaires, uh, or the front man, all these other people got punished for that as well, because they, in their own ways, they were either selfish or psychopathic or cruel or had no empathy. And maybe it's a slightly different message. Maybe he doesn't care about empathy and compassion to other people as much as just like teaming up and helping each other. But like in their own ways, those people should have been punished as well, but and have no futures. But what do we see here? They get away with it scot free. There's no payoff, and we have these through lines of all these different characters, and you really think that they're going to do something. You're really hoping that they do something, and nothing comes of it. The detective, useless. You could have carved him out of the story. Still, same story would have been the same. Zero impact. The team of ex-military SWAT that came with the detective and Gihan, useless as well. They got destroyed by that captain of the ship. I mean, I think the villains in this story were just, the odds and the superpowers were just stacked in their favor. They just had so many advantages with the captain of the ship helping and all this stuff. And there are moments where they had a little bit of glimmer of hope, but they were quickly dashed. That one guy was suspicious of the captain. He finds this evidence, immediately gets cut off at the knees by the police, which, like I said, was nothing but a hindrance, zero help. Gihan had some level of recourse, something, some strategy plan, but he just gets cut off at the knees before season 3 even starts. And I think they're trying to write it as if he gets some second win with the baby coming in, which he does. But, it ultimately just leads to like him failing. Like he couldn't take down the games at all. And he just ends up doing, which was what was predictable. A lot of the things he did, like you could see them coming. Like the billionaires were like, oh, he's just like biding his time before he throws the baby off. Of course he's not going to do that. Like, what are you thinking about? And then there's other things, like another time they were like saying like, they're saying all this other stuff. And I don't know. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the actors felt some level of disagreement with some of the writing here. Gihan at numerous times is just so out of character. One moment he has compassion or something, and he doesn't kill the guy he was mad at because the guy chickened out. And then all of a sudden he's angry again and wants revenge. The shaman lady, super annoying. If the point was for us to all hate her, mission accomplished. They really painted her out to be a fraud, which is great. I thought that was a great point, and made her super irritating and a hypocrite. But wow, what a mess of a story, but also so compelling. I had so much potential, and I think this guy is just done with writing. He doesn't want to turn this into this show that you just milk the heck out of and write multiple seasons, although it could really turn into that. I mean, I'm sure he walked away from a lot of money to close the show, but if you're going to close the show, do it right. Instead, you literally write it as if, yeah, we're going to continue this like a soap opera into multiple more seasons. You're going to leave the door open, and it just seems like the villains have won, and they're going to continue with another Squid Games, this time in the US. If you're going to do that, that's fine, but don't say this is the last season. If you didn't say this was the last season and you didn't close it out, then maybe some of us would have a different reaction. Maybe be like, yeah, okay, looks like the villains won this round, but the show's not over. We'll see what happens in the next season. Gihan dying off like that, super sad. I really didn't want him to die. They really put some plot armor on him in that last episode to keep him alive. Like, it just, many moments just didn't make sense for him to just constantly keep surviving, whereas everyone else just keeps dropping like flies. And I think I read somewhere that the showrunner, the creator, he wanted to kill off Gihan because he wanted closure with the show. If you're gonna do that, like make him have some more impact, do something. And I get it, sometimes people completely fail in their mission, but like I don't know, like at least make the journey more fun and crazy and chaotic. Like it literally just felt like he gave up hope and was just like, yeah, I messed up. I got no cards left. Like, yeah, let's just continue the games and you won. And then what are we rooting for at that point? Like it's literally just like, okay, Gihan, he's and there's like constantly like little sprinkles of stuff, like there is some through line, like the detective's going to eventually accomplish something big and make some impact, or Gihan's going to do something. Like they literally had, like in like the second to last episode, they had the grandma say all this motivational shit about how Gihan's meant to stop the games and all this stuff. And then we get a payoff? No. We find out moments later that the grandma hangs herself. Super sad and shocking. And then Gihan does like nothing to really stop the games. So, I don't know. I felt like there were moments where it was moving towards something more impactful. Like there was some bigger message, bigger fate, special thing. But what do we get at the end? We get the villains just not really learning much from what we can tell. Maybe learn nothing except for the front man, which you may have seen a twitch of empathy, and then they get away with it, and the billionaires are going to come back the next season and do the same thing. And the dialogue for the billionaires watching the show, super cringe, and you're really going to make them all, like some of them, like 24 years old. Like it just doesn't make sense. So I don't know. It just, why would you make them that young? They would not be that young. Let's just keep it with the real world. Like, yeah, there are more younger billionaires these days, but most of them are still old white men. So let's keep with that theme, make it more realistic, and the whole thing just seems like something I was disappointed about. But hats off to the show. I think had a lot of potential. Really sad he's not continuing it. And we'll see what happens next.